afternoon, everyone. Right, I was going to do a video this soon after I did the last one, but I thought I'd do it today because of what happened on the weekend. So I wanted to talk about the mainstream media and just how, who owns it and how it's massively controlled and how it's just propaganda, basically. Now, as many of you know, or most of you know, probably all of you know, because I'm sure you've all got social media. But on Saturday there was a protest all over the country. There were protests all over the country, and I think in America as well, on ending child trafficking and bringing these things to light. There were hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, I would have thought, on that, and yet the mainstream media have been absolutely silent. Now, I knew that they probably would be anyway, because I know how they work. But don't you think that is if there's anything that's newsworthy, surely it has to be that the biggest paedophile ring is being exposed right now all across the world, and that's the mainstream media haven't even thought to cover it. Instead, they're telling us about two celebrities who just announced they're having another baby. Who gives a fucking shit? Seriously. But having said that, I do think that it's worked against them in a way, because anyone, even if they don't know anything about anything, would agree that this issue is the biggest one and it has to be dealt with. I don't think anyone denies that. So the very fact that the mainstream media didn't report on it will raise alarm bells for people and hopefully send them on a journey. But I did just want to I went to the one in Newport on Saturday, and the speakers were fantastic. There was lots of support. The survivors spoke as well. Thank you to everybody who went. It was really good, and all the other protests as well. Because there were plenty of cars that went past and were beeping that weren't maybe not aware of it, but now they've seen it, can go away and have a look. So in a way, it's kind of backfired on the mainstream media. But I did want to spend today just talking a bit about them in general anyway. Well, the mainstream media was basically introduced. That's why it was introduced, was to manipulate the mind as a propaganda tool. And that is exactly what it has done from its inception. It's not telling you the news. It's not giving you anything other than it's just distracting you and fearing you and misinforming you and confusing you and scaring you is the biggest one. I'll talk about that in a minute. But just in terms of how they do it. When I was doing my research on cannabis, I went right back to the history of cannabis, because I was under the impression when I was a youngster, even though I used to smoke it, that, it was quite dangerous drug. And, obviously I was misinformed, having these generations passed down from when they started the disinformation campaign on cannabis, because pre-1937, I believe it was, cannabis and hemp were farmed worldwide. There are many, many uses. They used it in the pharmaceutical industry at the very, very beginning. There is no doubt about the benefits of it and the fact that it's not dangerous. It's not dangerous. And they knew this. And this was an enemy of the pharmaceutical industry and the cancer industry and everything else. So they used the media, the television, to tell a lie to your vision, to basically demonize cannabis. They had to, because wasn't part of their agenda. The pharmaceutical industry at that time was taking over holistic medicine, so they needed to they knew they couldn't just say, cannabis is dangerous and we're not going to allow it to be farmed anymore, we're going to make it illegal, because people were using it at the time. They couldn't have done it like that. They had to use one of their media campaigns. They're one of millions. And they did. They demonized. And I, watching documentaries going back now, like the Reefer Madness one, which I haven't actually, I've seen clips of it. I haven't seen it, but basically this is what was sold to them, when the videos of men raping women, and a woman killing her kids, and people running and jumping out of windows and smashing their cars. and it actually worked. Their campaign worked, and they managed to make it illegal. Obviously, back in 1937 or 1939, I think 1939 was when the Cancer Act came into play, which basically states that only the government are allowed to research for cures for cancer. Well, they knew damn well that cannabis was a cure for cancer. That's why they made it illegal, among other things as well, because it has many, many beneficial uses. But they used that propaganda to basically demonize that plant, and they were successful, as we know, because there are still many people out there who still think it's some kind of dangerous drug that makes you do these things. But the other side of it as well, you know, the things they hide. Look at the thing with Jimmy Savile. I know I mentioned him before, right? But the BBC knew full well what he was doing. They were harbouring, I mean, they still do it now. You know, we know that many are involved. We're seeing it all over the place, people being exposed, and finally it's coming to light. But, you know, the whole Jimmy Savile thing was absolutely unreal. And Jill Dando found she had all that information. You know, we were told Jill Dando was shot on her doorstep by some random bloke. I can't even remember his name now, but he was released after that. But basically, she was murdered. Of course she was murdered, because she had all the evidence on not only Savile, but his, you know, his very, very powerful connections to the royal family. You know, so that is why Jill Dando was murdered, and that's why most people are, you know, either suicided or murdered, because they're going to speak out on this stuff. So the BBC basically knew, and they harboured Jimmy Savile, and they allowed it until after his death to you know, and they're still doing it now. It's disgusting. You know, you shouldn't be paying your BBC, you shouldn't be paying your TV licence, just don't pay it. What else did it? Yeah, you know, we're gonna, even the whole COVID stuff, it's just been an absolute, from my point of view and from many of you now, it's laughable, but it's not funny at all because of the damage it's caused. What I mean is, the situation is so blatant now. They jump, if you're watching the mainstream media, I've watched it, I've put myself through it just so I can see what other people are seeing, and I don't understand why people, I think if the fear consumes you that much, you can't think straight. That's how they're able to manipulate the mind. So when people are looking at all, they can't even see the blatant contradictions from one day to the next. It's unreal. Even you know, how illogical it all is. And they've even admitted a lot of this. They've been lying. They're not telling you the truth. I think that's probably because of COVID. A lot of people have woken up, you know, at the beginning of March when this started to happen, because it's been that blatant. You know, it really is that obvious. But the media have been complicit in this. We've seen all the, you know, even when they were using the same clips from different places and just giving them different names to scare us and saying they died. And so it's all theatre, absolute bullshit. And they're, you know, journalism is dead from that point of view, unless you're an independent journalist, because you're not allowed, evidently, you're not allowed to report on these things. And that is because, if that doesn't suggest that it's because they know they're complicit in some way, I don't know what would. Like I said, what's more newsworthy? Child trafficking and you know, how many millions of children are trafficked, or whether Beyonce Knowles is having another fake pregnancy or not. That's what I mean by laughable. It's unreal. And I can remember in the beginning of lockdown, or right in the intense period when everyone was being just weird and stuff, you know, my dad watches the news, and I was just on my way out and I caught it on the telly, and it was just basically bringing up statements about COVID. That's all it was doing. It had some just weird music. I think they still play the same thing. And it said, the first statement was, the virus can last up to 72 hours on hard surfaces. And then the very next statement was, there's no evidence of it being on parcels and letters. That is a hard surface. It was just because they were carrying on as normal, because they know it was crap and they were giving us our mail. Everything's all, you know, you can go to a pub and you can't go down and sit with your Auntie Joan in her back garden. It's absolutely insane if you can't figure out that this has nothing to do with a virus, and the media are complicit in it, and they're the ones who are fear-mongering you, because that's their job. Once they can, they do it with TV all sorts of TV they do it with. But for example, then they're called TV programs because they're actually programming you. There's a patent on the TV. Go and have a look. It is actually designed to manipulate the mind. It is, and it really, really works, especially from a fear point of view, because a lot of it is fear based. Because once they can have you in that very low frequency, they can put anything into your subconscious mind. It's very clever, and they've been doing these these things for a long time, the mind control programs, and we think it's just MK Ultra and those types of ones. They're doing it to us every day through the media. It's the most powerful one. The most powerful propaganda machine in the world is the TV. And that's why, like I say, they're called programs. So I used to watch all the soaps before I realised I was living in a fantasy world. I used to watch EastEnders and Coronation Street and Emmerdale and all the other crap and the reality TV programs and all that shit. And then, like, after, like, the soaps especially, there'd be somebody, there's about 20 people get murdered in the street. Like, it's just not based on real life. People get raped. It's so traumatizing and emotional. I remember, like, you'd have somebody would die in a big horrific scene and whatever, and you'd be crying, and it would leave you drained, absolutely. And then once you're weak, then you're very easily manipulated. It's very powerful, and it works a treat. That's why they do it. 6 corporations own everything that you see on the television. Only 6. How many thousands of channels have you got on the TV? They're owned by 6 massive corporations, and they're there to manipulate the mind and plant seeds, and even the sexualization of our children. I am going to go back to that, because the screens are one of the most manipulative out of all for our young kids, and pop-ups and adverts and things that come up, and you'll have, like, just people snogging on a random advert in the day. Like, why do you even need to put that on a car advert? This is the problem with the screen, and these kids see things like that, even like, people think it's harmless and all, but it's not. It has an impact. They know it has an impact on your child's mind. They're well aware of how it works. It's just that the average person, or people who still believe that we live in this bubble, they don't understand how this works, so they can't see it. It's quite strange, but to watch it and see how people can just look at something so obviously blatantly false, be proved it many, many, many times, and still follow guidelines blindly. That's all it was about, stripping your freedoms away, and making you obey. And the more you obey, the worse shit's going to get, basically, especially from your kids' point of view. So going back to the subliminal messaging and stuff, I was having this conversation with my mate yesterday, and there's that program on, I don't even know what channel it is, and it's a harmless program. It's just a pawn shop, where you buy and sell stuff, but it's called Porn Stars. Now, if a child, for example, is in earshot of that, although the program itself is quite innocent, they hear the thing porn stars, and they enjoy they're going to go and Google porn stars, and how are they going to spell it? Probably PORN, and what's going to come up? They're not stupid, these people. They know exactly, they're evil, but they're fucking genius. They know exactly what they're doing, and this is etched in every fucking part of society. You can't get away from it. It's in toys, it's in all of the films, children's films. Walt Disney was a prolific paedophile. The subliminal messaging in his stuff is sick. The subliminal messaging part of it. The other one on the new game, I say new, it's been around a couple of years, new game shop, and you can buy CDs and you can buy phones and stuff, is called CEX, what I thought it was called anyway, and that's what I've called it. Anyway, the radio was on somewhere the other day, and they said the sex shop, and this was the middle of the day, and I thought, what the and I realised they were talking about that shop. Again, it's an innocent shop, really, but they've called it the sex shop. Why? Why the need to do it? And they manipulate your child on so many levels. through these things, and you know, we've got to keep a real eye on what they're watching. The access to online porn, massive issue like nothing else, because they can just get that, and you're seeing there's a lot more child on child abuse because they're seeing it from somewhere and it's being normalized through the media and through school. You know, you've seen the what they want to bring in sex ed. So basically they want to bring it in. I didn't go into much of it last time, I did mention it, but basically they want to go in, you know, and say that from 4 years old they need to be taught about sex and you know, masturbation, that it feels nice, and what's the name of the program they're using? I think it's Me to You or something like that. I have read it. I think it's called Me to You. And they've done it in such a way that they've actually normalised child abuse, because they're telling them, you know, if it feels nice, if you want to do it to yourself and this, that and the other, and what the fuck are they doing bringing it into a child's mind anyway at age 4? They know how the conscious mind works. The first 7 years are the most vital, and they know it, and that's why they're going in so deep. Your child, I don't care what anyone says, your child does not need to know about any of that, and by putting it into their mind, you've brought it into their consciousness unnecessarily, and that is why you're seeing what you're seeing. And they fully intend to do it in schools, and I don't know about the opt-out thing. I said that last time. I don't think you can, but so, for example, then, you've just taught a 4 or 5 year old that the touching is nice and it's a nice sensation and it's normal. What the hell? How are they going to distinguish then if an adult or anyone does it when they're telling them the same things? It's helping them groom children, but instead of the children thinking it's wrong, they think it's okay. This is not okay. This is not okay, and they're using the schools and they're using the media. You know, like I said, that this is basically about the mainstream media. If you still believe that the mainstream media are telling you the truth, you've got a long way to go, or there's no hope. It's that blatantly obvious now. They're just a propaganda machine. There's no shortage of evidence of that. Just go, once you've been researching a while, you'll realise all of it. And I strongly suggest, if you haven't, reading or watching, I haven't seen the film, but I read the book 1984 by George Orwell, and you'll understand why the wars go on, and you'll understand who's controlling your mind on every level. We're just not aware of it until we are aware of it, and then we notice it in absolutely everything we watch. You know, there's a funny meme that goes around, and it's so true for any truther or any person who's on a journey of truth. It becomes that, the symbolism, it becomes that obvious that you can't watch a film without noticing it. It is absolutely everywhere, honestly. And that's how powerful it is. And we've been unaware. Like, I can't make my mind up if it's worse now, or is it always been like this, and just because, you know, we're waking to it, that, you know. But anyway, I just wanted to say about the mainstream media. They haven't covered the and as well, there was a protest up in Buckingham Palace. Lots and lots of people outside the gates of Buckingham Palace chanting paedophiles. Is that not newsworthy? After everything that came out with Epstein and Prince Andrew, but more importantly, or not more importantly, but something that, you know, people have seemed to have forgotten about, is Prince Charles's strong friendship with Jimmy Savile. And they sold that man to us as a philanthropist. Sorry, I can't even say it. Philanthropist. Oh, I can't say it. They sold us to him as that, and they're doing exactly the same with Bill Gates, obviously. And by the way, Bill Gates has got a massive influence on all of the mainstream media, and of course the CDC, the FDA, the universities, Johns Hopkins University. He's got influence over so many, and he's the one that wants to sell you a vaccine. I'll leave that up to you. But anyway, just be aware of the mainstream media. Once you understand that it's a propaganda machine and what it's about, everything else will become more clear to you. You know, you've got to be careful even with some of the alternative news, because it's not, even that can catch you in. You've got controlled opposition and we've all fallen for it and got sucked in and whatever in the past. But just find your own way. But just know mainstream media is just not telling you the truth at all. And I think that's pretty obvious now anyway. So anyway, short one today, but I just thought I'd do it just because of what went on Saturday. But I'll do another one soon on, probably on vaccines, because that's obviously a big issue at the moment, massive one. So thanks for listening, and I'll catch you soon. Bye.